In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the best combi boilers on the market, and at the end of this video, there'll be a link to another video about combi boilers that explains what they are and how they work. So if you're in the market to replace your boiler and you are considering a combination boiler, make sure you check the video out after this because it will explain what a combi boiler is, as well as some of the pros and cons when compared to a traditional boiler system. And if you're tuning into the show for the first time, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on the latest in HVAC trends and how to get the best HVAC for your home. And please smash that like button for the algorithm if you find this content helpful. So first off, if you don't know what a combi boiler is, I will touch on that briefly. And in a nutshell, it is basically a combination of a boiler and a tankless hot water heater. Thus, the term combination boiler, or combi for short. Now, we talk about the benefits more in depth in another video that, like I mentioned earlier, will be linked at the end. So stay tuned for that. But the two main benefits are that number one, it is space saving because you are combining two appliances into one, and efficiency because it is a tankless high efficiency boiler and water heater. And there are a lot of different brands in the space, so we'll touch on some of those briefly, and I will explain why I like Triangle Tube and the Triangle Tube Instinct the best. So the main brand names that you will hear in the combi boiler or high efficiency boiler space in general are companies like Triangle Tube, NTI, Lochnavar, Navien, Peerless, Dunkirk, and most other water heater manufacturers like Rinnai, A.O. Smith, or Rheem also have a combination boiler line. But the handful of brands I mentioned earlier are brands in the boiler space that most hydronics contractors are familiar with. We sell a lot of Rinnai tankless water heater products, for example, but we have never installed one of their combi boilers. Now, the truth is that any of the brands I just mentioned will probably do okay because of the fact that they are not new brands and they are well established and they all have decent warranties, which at the end of the day is the most important thing to consider to make sure you're not getting a lemon, as in the case with eternal boilers. If you are a homeowner that has never heard of eternal boilers, then you are very fortunate because that means you never had one installed in your house. Long story short, they were a new company and were out of business in a very short period of time, but unfortunately left homeowners holding the bag with a bad product. And any contractor watching this can attest to the fact, and in fact, you'll probably hear them mention eternal boilers in the comment section as evidence on why to choose a reputable brand. But in order to tell you why I love Triangle Tube, the best way to start is probably by telling you a few stories as to why I dislike Lochnavar, as it provides a few contrast points that have set Triangle Tube apart. Now, we used to install the Lochnavar Noble exclusively as our preferred combi boiler. They have a decent reputation as a brand, and the Noble is their combination boiler line, so that was primarily what we installed. Long story short, we've had several issues with the Lochnavar Nobles, and after we had a few chronic issues on similar boilers, I started to think it was something we did wrong on the install, and so I had a technical rep from Lochnavar come out to our install to inspect and troubleshoot the system and tell me what his opinion was. And when he was out there, he advised me that it's best to run them slightly rich, and he manually tuned the gas mixture when doing a combustion analysis. And what I noticed when he was done was that it reeked of natural gas. Now, I did my own combustion analysis, and the units were all putting out roughly 90% efficiency when they're supposed to be at 96% and around 200 ppm of carbon monoxide in the exhaust. So not the cleanest burn at all for a high efficiency system. And after a few years of chronic issues like this, we ripped these out of our customers' homes at our expense. And this was only a handful of homes that were having chronic issues. So those were the ones we replaced, but we replaced them instead with the Triangle Tube Instinct Combi. And I'll tell you what I love about the Triangle Tube Instinct. And number one is that it is much quieter. The inducer motor on the Lochnavar sounds like a jet engine by comparison, whereas the Triangle Tube is whisper quiet by my definition. And one of my customers who was very annoyed with the Lochnavar from day one was so thankful, and he said it was definitely a night and day difference in terms of how much quieter the Triangle Tube was by comparison. So that's number one. My number two favorite thing about the Triangle Tube is upon installation, I discovered that the commissioning and combustion settings are set in the installer profile based on the altitude you select. Then the system tunes and trims the gas valve based on whatever altitude the system is installed at. For us working primarily in Colorado, where one boiler could be at 9,000 feet and another boiler could be at 5,000 feet, this was a very nifty feature, but I'll tell you in part number three why I'm absolutely impressed with this. And part number three is their efficiency. Now, when we did a combustion analysis on these bad boys, they were running at 99% efficiency and producing 10 to 15 ppm of carbon monoxide. And for anyone who is not a contractor watching this, in layman's terms, this is an extremely clean burn and very efficiently operating system. And this is proof that their technology is superior, because in order for me to get a clean burn, I did not have to manually adjust my mixture or set a mixture screw. All I had to do was go into the settings and set the install altitude of the equipment, and it is running perfectly. And since we've been installing these almost exclusively for about 2 years, we've had minimal issues, which is one of the reasons I love them so much and wanted to put out this video, because after my experience with Lochnemar, I am extremely happy with how well these triangle tube systems perform. And I have a bonus for you coming up shortly, but if you're enjoying the content so far and haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure you do so. It takes a lot of time and energy to put out content like this, and it's a free way you can support the channel. And post a comment in the comment section below letting us know what you think or what questions you still have. And back to the bonus content I was telling you about. After installing a few of these, I became such a big fan that this is what I chose to install at my house. So as a bonus right now, I'm going to invite you into my home and show you my mechanical room so that you can see one of these in action. And in addition, I'm going to perform a combustion analysis for you live and show you the actual numbers so you can see what I mean with how efficient they are. So right now we are in my crawl space. This is my triangle tube instinct combi boiler. It just fired up. This is a combustion analyzer, and so we have this doing the combustion analysis right now. This wand basically is just taking exhaust gas temperatures, and it's actually sampling the exhaust mixture basically via this wand and via this tube. It's pulling this through into its O2 sensor that it has inside here, and it's telling me what the efficiency is. So I'll show you what the actual efficiency numbers are. When it first fires up, it's actually going to be a little bit lower efficiency because of the fact that the heat exchanger is cold, and as the heat exchanger warms up, you'll actually get less condensation as well, because when it first fires up, it actually dumps a lot of condensation because the heat exchanger itself is cold, and so therefore the contrast between the cold heat exchanger and the hot fire in the combustion chamber creates more condensation than normal. So we're gonna let this run for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna show you what the actual numbers are of this so you can see what the efficiency is. So the system just started running, literally just fired up, and these are the combustion analysis numbers we're looking at. As you can see, the ppm is actually a little bit high, but that's gonna take a while for that to adjust until it's actually running more efficiently. And part of that is because of the temperature of the heat exchanger itself. So you're actually getting more condensation because the boiler hasn't technically warmed up yet. So it's firing at 114 on your supply and 106 on the return. And the boiler's actual operating temperature is going to be around 160 to 180, depending on how you have it set up. Typically it's about 180 is what your supply temperature should be. And so as this thing warms up, you can see that the CO numbers, which is carbon monoxide, will come down, indicating a more efficient burn. And as you can see, the actual efficiency it's measuring right now is still at 95%, even though it just fired up. So the system is modulating up and down. You can been running now for about 5 minutes, and as you can see, the efficiency's actually been bouncing up and down. I was waiting for it to climb, but 5 ppm on CO, that's a very clean burn. And then the efficiency's been bouncing anywhere between 93 and 98 while it's running. And again, this is, as you can tell right now, I mean, that inducer's running. It's very quiet, very efficient system. Our bedroom's right above this, and we can't hear it up there, so it's really nice. And then you can see it's climbing again. So this is really an awesome system. As you can see, this is why this is one of my favorite systems. It's just how quiet it runs and how efficient it is. I really think it just is an awesome system. So yeah, so we've been watching it for a little bit now, but as you can see, the efficiency is going up and down, and it's actually holding very steady, at least on the ppm. Once it's stabilized, it has low parts per million of carbon monoxide, which again is a very clean burn, so that's pretty awesome. System's super quiet. It's running right now. I'm using the on-camera mic, so I'm not using a mic like a lav or something, so that way you can hear the ambient noise. You can hear the well click on right now. That's actually the well making that noise. Bottom line is, this is a super quiet system. I love it. If you get one for yourself, I think you'll be super happy with it. I've been happy with it. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this content. We put out a lot of stuff like this where we really try to do deep dives on equipment so you can see what you're getting into before you buy, and we talk about the downsides, the upsides, and give you kind of the skinny on what to expect. So again, thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't checked out these next videos that are popping up on the screen, check those out now, and we will catch you on the next episode.